Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining as we have one of our discipline dialogues. In years past, we've had these types of sessions at the K-14 Dual Credit Summit, which have always been a popular part of it. But with this year, the summit was a little different target audience earlier in the year. And to continue this popular feature of the summit, we decided to do it in a virtual setting. So it's the first year of such a thing. And so we're not sure, if this is going to be around for future years. We really, to make sure this happens into subsequent years, where we're requesting robust participation from those who are joining us. So if you are and able to turn on your camera, please do so. So that way we can be fully engaged if it's possible. Of course, last time we had some people driving, listening to this. We don't want you to be looking out the window on the interstate while you're doing this at the same time as well. But if you're able to, please turn on your camera. Just in a second, I will put in the chat a link to a Google form. So that way, if you'd like to get the professional growth points that we'll hand out for this in a few weeks, once we have all these sessions done, please fill that out. So that way we can track that as well. And then the final thing to say before I hand it over and ask April a few questions is just a reminder that Ivy Tech this year, once again, is offering our free summer program to high school students. So if you have any of your students, whether they are a graduating senior and going to be done with high school here in a month or so, or a rising freshman, so actually eighth graders in a handful of situations, would be eligible for this. Any high school student is eligible to take free courses with Ivy Tech over the summer. So if they wanted to take Design 101, that's perfectly acceptable. Also, if they'd want to take English, comm, welding, whatever course we offer, as long as it's a 4-credit course, a regular course, it is 100% free to students. That includes tuition, includes fees, books, consumables, all of that type of stuff. So there really are no catches or gimmicks or anything like that. So do keep that in mind for your high school students or your friends, family, anything like that that's eligible. It's a great deal for all of our students. So with all of that being said, April, I'll let you introduce yourself and hand over the floor here for a few seconds. And then once you get done with that, I'll kind of ask some questions for you. And if any one of our participants, one of our dual credit instructors are here today, have a question, please come off mute and ask it at any time. We really encourage us to be as interactive as possible. So April, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm April Bledsoe. I'm currently situated in Bloomington. I'm the statewide chair for the Design Technology program. And for those of you with environmental design, EECT, or design technology for dual credit, I am one creating your PD module with others from our K through 14 team. But a lot of the content, I'm organizing that with myself as curriculum chair for the state, and then the curriculum committee from those other two programs. And so throw those questions at me, whatever you may have.
And thank you, April, for that. I am going to put my email in the chat as well. April, if you could do that sometime. So if anyone does have particular questions for one reason or another, they want to talk about it offline, you can always send the email to me or to April. Or if April is not your local program chair that you coordinate with at Ivy Tech, of course, reach out to your program chair. That's always a great resource. But I know April is one of our best academic advisory committee members and is willing to, I don't want to speak too much on her behalf, but I know she's always willing and able to help whenever we have questions from anyone. So with all of that being said, kind of the first thing that we've had people do, April, is answer this question. Are there any best practices that you suggest for your the disciplines you cover? So whether that is some sort of resource that you know of, something that is maybe available online or on campus or with your program chairs, anything like that. What are some things that your dual credit instructors should be really aware of that will help their classroom experience for their students?
Well, I know that you've all been, like in the last couple of years, been getting used to dualenroll.com, but I will say for us, I think that that has created a more consistent communication portal for those syllabus, site visits, those kinds of things. So one thing I would say is if your liaison from the campus that you're with is trying to communicate with you about updating your syllabi, maybe it'd be worth having an actual conversation than going back and forth, because I know that can be frustrating for you. I see one of my teachers on here, hi Michael, and that, we try to communicate through email and kind of nail it down before he uploads it, that way, but we also the liaison documents and dual enroll that we send it back for some questions. But that's one of the benefits of the PD module, actually, creating some templates out there for you that I've tried to do a lot of the work for you and putting the course outlines, course objectives in there. And that is the college template that we need. We have to do that same template. The other thing is best practices is making sure those course objectives that are in there are what we are required, even ourselves, to deliver on. And so I know a lot of you high school teachers have them for way more contact hours than we do. Most of the tech classes were at least at 64 contact hours in a term, and you might have them for 120. You might have them all year. So you're trying to fill that space with, other curriculum, and that's okay. I think that's great. You're building on that. But just know when we're ranging site visits, whether it's virtual or in person, we're looking for evidence of those objectives being met through projects, through assessments, rubrics, things like that. And I try to tell my teachers I'm coming, and just remember this is what I'll be looking for, so that they can get some evidence ready for me that might help when you're working with your liaison on site visits. The other thing is, and just trying to keep that communication portal open. I know on your campus, you're not exactly what, have the same activity going on, but yet with our accreditation that we have, and the more closely we are trying to align our dual credit classes with what we're doing on campuses for the students' sake, to have that experience, that we really do want to communicate with you and support you in what you're doing. So please feel free to reach out to your partners with those questions. And if you ever have a question that you're not even sure who your liaison is for some reason, you have your K through 14 director at your local campus, or you can always reach out to me and I'll find that person for you.
Yeah, we can track down that person a number of different ways. I did put it in the chat for everyone's reference. We have a Google Drive, which we're still populating the syllabi templates for next year. You may be familiar with the generic syllabi or syllabus template that we had that was just kind of the statewide one for the entire all 425 dual credit courses that we have. And that included a lot of the legal language and things like that. But one thing that we're trying to do for next year is have a course by course template that April mentioned, so that way you don't have to worry quite as much about some of the course objectives and just those little things that sometimes could get lost, especially if you're balancing 2 or 3 different syllabi. So that way all the instructors have that available to them. So do be aware of that resource. April, you have something to add?
Well, I was just going to say, I was actually working on those for 2024, the 24-25 school year, because they're going to go into the module. And keep in mind, just maybe if you're not aware of this, but when the curriculum committee votes in a change, we have 2 meetings a year at least, and when we vote in a change, it can't go into effect right away. It usually will go into effect. If we voted it in the fall, then it could go in effect to the next fall. If we voted in the spring, then it will be 1 whole year and a half cycle. So we just had our meeting recently. If it would have been voted in, it would have not come into effect until fall of 26. However, things that were voted in, in the last fall and previously to go in effect in fall of 24, just keep in mind that you will want to double check those course objectives. That's why we try to create new templates for you. At least I've tried to do that for a long time with my teachers. So I just started doing it in the PD shell as well, so that it has any of the updates in there. The other thing, and I don't know, Mark, if we can do that here, is to show them how they can go see COR information themselves in Curriculog. But it's exactly what the course objectives are, and I just grabbed them right out of there and pasted into the new templates. They're sitting in the PD module right now that you guys haven't yet seen, but you will soon. The thing about this folder that Mark just pointed out is in July, when we are getting ready to start a new year, and you are getting ready for that too, the college will often send us a template that has some tweaks to it. And then I'm trying to update our big template for dual credit. And so some of my teachers get the benefit of that when I'm working with them directly. But now that we have this folder, I'll be able to live update in the folder. So I'm excited about that. If you're not going out and grabbing your templates until July or August, we'll have the chance, hopefully, to update this folder. I did put it in the PD module, but I just, as a, disclaimer, that it might get updated in July or August with a little bit of a tweak in language, college policies and things like that.
Yeah, so in the chat here, I'll put the design course descriptions from the catalog. And I also made April you a co-host. So if you do want to share your screen now or at any time.
Well, and I don't know, I obviously I have EDSN and EECT also. And so I went and checked for all of those courses to be updated. So if I have instructors from those disciplines on here, I just want to make sure it's not just design I'm talking about all of them. So inside, let me open that up here real quick. There it is. Okay, so I'll share. Because you are instructors with your ivtech.edu login, you can go access my Ivy and so many things that you have resources as instructors, as our partners. And so we used to have a folder somewhere that had a piece of paper scanned in there, literally, that had all of these course objectives, each one. Now it's more electronic. And so this should look pretty familiar to you, because this is what, for Design 101 instructors, this is the COR course outline that would be pasted in there, right? But if any updates have come through, so I can say one that's coming through effective fall is the AutoCAD. And it's not in there right now, but it will be in there for fall, which is that AutoCAD is a requirement. That was voted in, I'm going to be honest, almost 3 years ago. And so it's finally going to become, because we gave a heads up to our teachers last year that this was coming. It was in the PD module, even there was a note. And I've been telling my teachers, and I know my peers were sharing with theirs across the state. But so it doesn't show it right now, but it will show it as another objective about AutoCAD. And so I've updated that in the PD module that I put it in, because it's effective in the fall 24. So you guys can go see this yourself. It's nice because if you're exploring, of course, even to advise your students, something they might want to take at Ivy Tech, and they want to take in the summer, or they want to go a semester and take on campus, you can go out and see some of these course descriptions that will expand on the direction they want to go. And I think that's really great too. So you can search up here. Mine defaults to design because that's the way I save my screensaver. And we can share this linked curriculum with you. But you can just put the discipline in. So like for your EECT folks here, it's turning a minute here. That's probably because I'm on the Zoom, and it will pop up and it will list all the active courses. And so obviously you'll see your courses out there that you teach, but then you can see all the courses. And even those that might not be active anymore, but they were on the past crosswalk, or not necessarily crosswalk with dual credit, but as part of a pathway that students have in their transcript. You can see what those course descriptions are. But so these are, when we talk about COR, it's that the course objectives in your syllabus, and those things that you are to deliver on. These are what we're looking for. I just say it makes it easier when I ask the instructors, say, provide some evidence for me of projects and such, and snapshot in time, obviously, when I site visit, but of your curriculum meeting these objectives. That's an accreditation thing, absolutely. Not only are these 3 programs accredited, with HLC and some of our other institutional accreditations, NACEP being one, But with STEM here, we have the APME accreditation, which is an industry accreditation. So they have a lot of the same criteria and for the alignment that they're looking for and evidence. So I have, when they come for site visit, which we're going to be renewing our APME next year, having a site visit in the fall of 25. They look for projects and things. They do the same thing that I do when I come to you for a site visit. They are looking for evidence.
Okay, that's all good stuff there. April, thanks for sharing that link there into some of those examples. Moving on to professional development outside of our modules that we have for all of our dual credit instructors, is there any professional development opportunities related to the programs and fields that you cover that they should be aware of, whether it's something offered at an Ivy Tech campus, nationally with accreditation body, anything like that?
So one thing I would say, and especially in design, all of our, it's not a software program, but we use software, part of our tools to release these professional designer draftsmen into the world. And so each of our major vendors, they do have training on their own sites. So I do have actually in the PD module, for example, a link to Autodesk training where an instructor can go out there and go through some learning on their own. And some of the other providers do. So that's very helpful. Uh, I have to say, YouTube is a great source too, sometimes when you're trying to find material. And I use those as additional resources sometimes to share with students. But for us, leaning into what the software providers have out there for us is really great. As educators, we get so much for free. So we, want to take advantage of that. As far as the design technology program, for example, there are some other certifications and things that you can tap into if you really want. Most of you don't use SOLIDWORKS. I think I have one or two high schools that do because of the licensing. So for 3D design, for example, you're using Fusion because it's an Autodesk product that's free. But Autodesk themselves do have different certifications now, and those are great bullet points on someone's resume to see these employers are looking for those. So I highly recommend if a student really wants to go for that. We do have the AutoCAD user exam. We're certified for that at Ivy Tech. It's mostly been offered at our Lafayette campus as a practice. She actually does that at the end of Design 113. For those of you, it's a tough exam, but we can make that happen. If you're interested in that as a class body that you want something like that, we can probably set something like that up on campus because we're approved. We're approved to do that. For environmental design, they have all of their setup and shell like for the whole program, which is really nice. Do we have any environmental design on here? Do you see any hands? Because I won't waste a lot of time on that, but they do actually have theirs all set up. And so everything that links to some of those recommended sites and things that they might want to dive into as they further along past certification. And EECT the same way. When you start getting into electronics and things like that, obviously we could start talking different pathways and things that might even go towards the direction of journeyman and things like that. So it really depends, but I say talk to your chair at your campus for that, because they are in the know and talking with these organizations like the unions and things like that for anything in electronics and engineering, electrical and stuff like that.
Next, April, is there anything, and this kind of overlaps a little bit with the professional development, but with the programs that you see, is there any hot topics or things on the horizon that instructors should be aware of? So potentially like new certifications that are required or suggested, new equipment, things like that, or just anything beyond that that's kind of a hot topic in the field.
Well, I will say there are kind of two different questions here. So one on equipment, it will be program based, and that's one of the things that definitely talking with your liaison to help make sure you're prepared for that. And as far as certifications, one thing I will say about Autodesk is they're constantly adding these different badges too, which are almost like milestones, and they're very much an incentive for people to kind of go for these badges, these user badges, because that you earn them and they show up like in LinkedIn. You can those show up in your profile if you want them to. So those are some things that could be a benefit, professionally, obviously. And for the students, when you're trying to help them understand and building their brand and their profile out there, those kinds of badges are just almost as value as like on the way to certifications. The hot topic, though, as we all probably can expect, is AI. And from a design technology perspective, I worked in manufacturing and for a large older company that has thousands of patents. And so there is a lot of back and forth right now on innovation and original design, and how do you claim, that it's patentable if you let AI do all the work. I did actually drop an article in this particular hot topics along with some of the ones I usually have out there, because if you follow your vendors and your the professional orgs for some of these, like from the electronic standpoint, you're going to get the hot topics on a regular basis, what's going on in industry. But the AI one is a back and forth for what we do because of innovation and claiming, original design. It gets really tricky when you're filing for a patent. You have to prove your part in that. You have to prove some history a lot. And so utilizing AI is not a crime. It's just that there's a lot that needs to go on there in the proof and what your contribution is, and because you're the one applying for it, not this fictional figure. So you can use it. They're still investigating that. I actually was at Autodesk University in November. I talked to the vice president of design and manufacturing, because that was the big launch this year at the big conference, was about the AI platform. But I feel like anybody that can get ahead of it will be someone like Autodesk and some of our other major vendors like that, and that will help us start to learn how to detect some of the things that we're concerned about for original design. So just trying to stay aware. It's really different than the tools that are checking for plagiarism. Okay. And there's just nothing, truly, unless you work for the CIA, there's really nothing that we have at our, at our fingers for us to detect that right now in design. And I'm talking in any of these disciplines. So just try to stay informed, because as the college also is evolving with this, and we're talking to other colleges and universities across the state about what they're doing, we're trying to move along with it and become educated in it ourselves. And when tools become available for us, we will make them available, to the whole college, obviously, through the whole discipline.
Yeah, and so kind of the last thing we have here before just general Q&A that we might have from anyone. Are there Canvas shells, Ivy Learn things, OER materials, different stuff like that, that dual credit instructors should be aware of to help their courses?
Good question. So EDSN does have all of these courses that are right now for dual credit. They do have those out there in a shell. It's a bit smaller program, and they've created a statewide shell for all of them. And there is some in the EECT world. In design, only in our Ivy Online do we have a couple of shells. We are working, partly because of accreditation and some tracking things that we want to do for outcomes, that we are working on a shell for the first two, 101 and 113. And then we'll go from there. Because one of the challenges for us, to be honest, in the design world, is based on where we're located in the state, based on what our local industry is asking for, is what we may teach. So we do have some options, say in the 3D design class, to use this commercial software or that one from a few select, and it's based on what industry is asking us for. So they're still getting the same fundamentals of working in a 3D space, but a particular tool might be the most common in that area. So we want those students to get jobs. So that's what we're teaching in our classroom. And then we try other ways to incorporate some of the other software because we want them to leave the program with as many tools in their tool belt as possible. So one tool through 6 classes is not going to do it. You know, we through the 6 classes that you guys are eligible to teach, most of you for certificate pathway, there are 3 or 4 different tools that they will come out of our campus program with because of the fact that that's what industry is expecting of us, to really equip them with as much as possible to be savvy and work in that world.
Okay, back to the chat. Once again, I know we've had a few people join us. I'm putting in there a link to a Google form. If you can fill that out, I'll make sure that you get your professional growth points in a few weeks for coming to today's session. Also, once again, I want to remind everyone that we do have free high school or free courses on campus or virtually for all high school students this summer. So any course that we offer, any high school student, assuming they meet the prereqs, if there are any, can take that course for free with all tuition, consumables, everything that you can imagine associated cost-wise with the class being waived for the high school student. All that being said, does anyone have any questions for April? So please come off mute and ask away.
I don't know if this is the right venue for this particular question. I teach at Connersville High School and I teach the Project Lead the Way engineering program. And we have 4 courses that we teach: IED, which is the Design 101, and POE, which is the Design 104. The vocational school in the past has taught SIM and EDD and has earned dual credit. I've been told that they're no longer dual credit courses or eligible, that the SIM and the EDD is no longer dual credit. Is that accurate? Is there a way to get dual credit for those 2 courses? If so, what design courses would they align with?
Those 2 don't align that I'm with any of our design courses that I'm aware of straight off. But I know I'd have to see the actual curriculum of that because it's been quite a while. I'll be honest, the SIM class that you might be referring to that I'm aware of could be tied to Design 195. And that is not a SIM course, and that was the problem. So it was out there for dual credit for like a year or 2, and then we had to pull it because before Design 195, I think it was out there, that same SIM course was being offered through maybe an INDT or advanced manufacturing course, and they had the same problem because it's not a SIM class. It's actually, there's a lot of application to it, and it wasn't aligning with our course objectives. So that's why the curriculum committee had a problem with that. And we do have advisory boards and such too. Just to say that I'm sure the course itself is great as a what the students are, learning in there, but it's just us from an accreditation standpoint, meeting those course objectives. So that's where we were running into some challenges. Now, Design 195 is released back to those who can meet credentialing and have the equipment to teach that in their campus. There is that eligibility, but it still has to align with the course objectives. So I think that would be something to talk with your local, your K through 14 director, and then obviously some program discipline representatives, maybe from other programs regarding that SIM one. There may be something that's come around in advanced manufacturing, but I can't see the content to say that. I don't want to overstep here. And then the other course was, what did you say the other course was? Sorry.
Engineering design and development. It's the capstone course, and it's part of that pathway, next level program of study pathway. And it doesn't make sense to me to have the first class dual credit, the second class not dual credit, the third class dual credit, and the fourth class not.
Yeah, but see, we're not Project Lead the Way, and we do our very best to, and I think Michael and I have had this conversation. In fact, I think there is a great deal in what you guys are teaching that is incredible for students. Like I said, you have them often for more contact hours than we do. And we have tried to look at ways of what is the content of what you're teaching, obviously, and saying, we can make this happen. You can look at our objectives and I can see it woven in, your PLTW curriculum. You just have to be intentional to say, okay, April, here's how we're meeting those objectives. And that's what I'm looking for, and trying to work with you because so many of our schools are using PLTW. But we don't write our program to meet PLTW. We were already existed for many, many years as a design tech program, and then PLTW would come along and they looked for a way to make it to make it happen that schools could use that curriculum for college, to get some college credit in there. And those were the courses that more closely aligned when they made the decision to allow PLTW curriculum. It's a little bit, I know, can be a little bit more challenging for teachers who only teach that and saying, okay, but we need to align with the college course, and that's just the way it is because of our accreditation. But with some intention, it can happen. So those other courses in our associate's degree, we do have a capstone course that they must complete, but not at the end of a six course certificate. So I don't know. And plus we're design technology, which covers more than just engineering. All those students can focus on that if they want and take their electives primarily in that area. They might go architecture, and those engineering ones, they might go on to get an engineering degree or mechanical engineering degree at ISU or IUPUI, however that's splitting up now, and some of the other state institutions. So that's where we are. I did hear that also there's one that they're starting in the 8th grade that's actually setting the whole thing off. But even some of your peers have said, we don't even think they're mature enough. A lot of them haven't even had their math. And we require math in our program too. So they didn't feel like they were going to be ready to go into high school and go through some of these engineering courses when they hadn't even had the math. So I think that's good to start it off, but they won't get college credit in the 8th grade from us.
Yeah, just to go off of that, our college policy, which is to go through many different votes and everything, a lot of different committees, stuff like that, formally says that dual credit can only be awarded to 9th through 12th grade. So 8th grade, and it's not just exclusive to, this program. There are a handful of principles courses that are offered in the 8th grade, and that can jeopardize the dual credit offerings all the way down the line if that first course is a prereq for all the other ones and they miss out on that because it's 8th grade. So generally speaking, from the Ivy Tech Systems Office perspective, I always advise to start those programs when possible in 9th grade, just because of that issue right there. But that's just my narrow single focus on it.
I'm guessing
So,
they started that course in the 8th grade because students have to make a decision what pathway they're going to start in their freshman year. So that does expose them to it. I can understand why they started that. It's just no college credit from right at this time from us. Yeah.
But if they do take it 8th grade and they want to take it again over the summer for college credit, they could do that with free summer to get that plug in, and then would be eligible for anything else that would be down the NLPS pathway that's predicated on that course they took on 8th grade.
Yeah, that one is one that sort of kicks off the whole thing for them that we don't have any alignment for anyway right now. That's why I think they offer it in 8th grade to help them decide for their freshman year what they're going to take and all through high school.
Okay, good question. Yeah. Any other questions from the group here?
I would like to add some of the things that I'm seeing when I'm visiting you all, visiting my partners out there, some incredible work that you're doing, and the projects you're doing in your local community and pulling industry in to be judges of competitions and creating pipelines for students to get summer jobs and such. I'm sometimes I'm just really impressed, and and definitely always checking my program here at campus and talking to my peers about it and curriculum that, you know, to be in line with that, to create these opportunities for students. So I just want to applaud you on that, because we're always looking to challenge them, but also exposing them to industry is exactly one of the things I do in Design 195, by the way. That's why it's not a sim course. They actually do go on plant tours and things, and work with industry. But it is what we really need to do, so the industry knows that you're making these students available, and then at the same time helping the students see something to shoot for, and what it's really like to be working out there, help them grow up a little bit. I know that saying that in 8th, 9th graders this can be a little bit challenging, but I think it makes a difference.
Yeah, and before we head out, just wanted to thank everyone for all of their hard work that you do as dual credit instructors. Being a dual credit instructor is always optional, and there are extra requirements and things that you have to do to be a dual credit instructor, whether that's uploading a syllabus or doing a site visit or completing the professional development. All of those things there, take up your time, and it's all something that you are doing to help your students right there. So it really does make a big difference, but it's also something that you could in most cases pass on. So we always appreciate that, and it says a lot about all of our dual credit instructors that they do all of that extra stuff for their students. So I'm going to ask one last time here if we have any more questions, and then if not, we'll end the session for today. Okay, hearing none, we will end this. Someone asked about sending out the recording. We will probably be putting these recordings out on YouTube at the end of the school year, but we have not made a final decision. We don't want to just say all these are going to be recorded and then have no one show up later in the year or later in the month for these sessions. So kind of a fine line between making sure we have the recordings and getting them out, but then also making sure we don't cannibalize the attendance from it. But whenever it is, we'll send the calendar invite that was sent out. We'll reply all with the YouTube link. That'll probably be towards the end of May, with being the guest. So with all that being said, thank you all for coming today, and have a good rest of your day, good week, and good end of your school year.
Thank you.